All right, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Racha HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere, hopeful, elect Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, in spirit and in truth. All right. Ma'ah Arabayim Arabai Alap, which is to say 144,000. All right, Shalom to you, the hopeful elect. That is what we are striving to be a part of. All right. Now, getting, straight to it, some news that came out a couple days ago, dealing with the USS Gerald Ford being clogged. All right. And this is a article from Western Standard News. As the title says, USS clogged American aircraft carrier suffers toilet malfunction amid growing tension with Iran. All right, growing tensions with Iran. Now, toilets flooding, sewage system failing, and reports of sailors putting foreign objects into ship toilets amid growing naval buildup and escalation between U.S. and Iran. All right, now there's reports that these soldiers on this aircraft carrier are deliberately putting mop heads, t-shirts, flushing them down the toilets, clogging the sewage system because they don't want to be in that region. All right, they've been deployed longer than usual, and they don't want to be in that region no longer. They know that, this war that the U.S. is eventually going to wage with Iran is unwarranted, or it has not. It hasn't been pretty much, approved by Congress. Okay, because the Senate, Congress, all that. They have to approve these wars, and it hasn't gone through that process. And those soldiers know that pretty much they have been sent over to the Middle East to fight a war that is not approved of, that nobody wants. Okay, and the whole Epstein list. They know that soldiers aren't as dumb as people think. All right, there's a lot of smart people that's in the military. All right. And they have the same access to social media. So they see all these Instagram and YouTube and TikToks dealing with their president being a pedophile, a PDF file, a Satanist. All right. A completely vile, despicable person. Being that he's all in the Epstein list. All right. So they don't want to fight for that. Or a lot of them, So therefore they are taking, measures, drastic measures, taking things into their own hands, to sabotage this aircraft carrier. Okay. Now, real quick, I want to grab this here. All right. So I asked AI, I said, how long has the USS Gerald Ford been deployed? It says, as of late February 2026, the USS Gerald R. Ford, has been on a super deployment that began late June 2025, exceeding 240 days at sea. The carrier is currently in the Mediterranean and expected to continue operating in the Middle East, potentially breaking the 294-day post-Vietnam War record if it remains past mid-April. Okay, so they going on close to a year. All right, if they continue to be out at sea. Now, a whole year, you got to understand that those aircraft carriers, they're hella confined, man. All right. It's not a lot of space overhead space. All right, it's like walking through tunnels. All right, confined recycled air. That's not a comfortable place to be. All right, for a whole year, for damn near a year. All right, 6 months is bad enough. Okay, you start to get claustrophobic or seasick or whatever the case may be. And you yearn to to go home to be actually on land. All right, now they do go to certain places and dock for a period of time, and you're able to get off and walk around on land for a period of time, and then right back to the ship. Okay, but as you see, it's they're on a super deployment. All right, meaning they've been out there longer than usual. All right, so I also asked, what is the average USS naval vessel deployment range, and it says U.S. Navy vessel deployments typically last between 6 and 9 months, with ships generally deploying every 18 to 24 months, while 6 months is standard. Operational requirements often extend these deployments. Submarines usually have 6 month deployments or 3 month patrol for ballistic missile submarines. All right, so an average of 6 to 9 months is a deployment, um, a standard deployment. Okay, and these guys been out there longer than that. All right, so reading some of this article, it says, it's a crappy situation indeed for the sailors aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, where reports have surfaced alleging that the sewage systems are broken and that sailors may have aided in causing the issue in a form of passive mutiny. All right, passive mutiny. Let's see what is mutiny. Let's look this word up. All right, mutiny. It says insurrection against constituted authority, particularly military or naval authority. Okay. Concerted revolt against the rules of discipline or the lawful commands of a superior officer, hence generally forcible resistance to rightful authority and subordination. So it's a bunch of division that's going on amongst those those sailors. All right, the fact that they're clogging the toilets and sabotaging that ship is insubordination. Okay, so with that being the case, America is not in a good stance in preparation for for fighting this war against Iran. Okay, you can't be successful, in war when there's a civil war going on within your own military. All right, whatever branch that is. Okay. It says not verse 2, but definition 2, it says violent commotion, tumult, strife. Definition 3, it says in English, statute reenacted annually to punish mutiny and desertion. All right, so let's get back to that article. Where's it at? All right. It says an article by NPR released in January showcased internal emails that discuss the risks and flaws of the toilet system on the world's largest warship. It also mentioned how there had been problems from the get-go surrounding not just the mechanics of the toilets being faulty, but the fact that there are just too few toilets for the amount of sailors on board. Every day that the entire crew is present on the ship, a trouble call has been made for the ship's force personnel to repair or unclog a portion of the VCHT system since June 2023, the email and the article read. Could you imagine that? Every day you are on call to go unclog a toilet. Okay. You know, these are the conditions that these soldiers is dealing with, man. And that in itself is it'll take a toll on the morale. All right, the morale in that ship will be low, okay, which is not good for war. All right, now you got to understand that sewage system probably has the whole or portions of the ships smelling crazy. You know, it says our sewage system is being mistreated and destroyed by sailors on a daily basis. It continues. The ship already reportedly has a similar problem when it was had a similar problem when it was deployed in the Caribbean during the American operation in Venezuela, with similar reports of closed toilets and unsanitary conditions. This current issue has seemingly worsened in the last couple of days, with reports of low morale amongst crew members and foreign objects being found in the toilets. Okay, reports suggest that the low morale among sailors is due to the uncertainty and lack of communication over how long their deployment is and whether or not they will be engaging in combat, as there are increasing reports that the United States intends to topple Iran's current regime with military force. So these they don't even want to fight, man. Okay, here it is. You signed up to join the Navy and you don't even want to fight. All right, that's crazy work. Now let's see if this is gonna play. All right. Look at this, man. Could you imagine being on a ship going through this? Clogged toilets, standing in line to go take a shit, and you gotta deal with this? This is crazy. Oh, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. Oh man. So I mean that's pretty much let me see. All right. It says the reports of sailors deliberately sabotaging their own sewage system highlight the lack of morale among troops in the buildup to what may be the biggest U.S. deployment in the region since the 2003 Iraqi War. Uh, Reports of sailors missing funerals and births and being unable to contact family back home may have led to this passive mutiny, as sailors have been unable to contact family due to the sensitive nature of their current mission. Dang. Okay. It says the toilet issue cannot be totally fixed at sea and would need the USS Gerald Ford to return to a U.S. port to be resolved. However, man, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is nice, man, because here it is. Trump wants some niggas out at sea, but they're floating on a naval vessel that has crazy sewage problems. And the only way it can get fixed is if that ship actually goes back home, back to the U.S. Which, if it goes back to, and this is the biggest U.S. naval vessel, if it goes back to the U.S., then it's not gonna do any justice to the operation that they want to carry out over in Iran. So this is the Lord got Esau in a conundrum, man. Okay, It says the toilet issue cannot be totally fixed at sea and would need the USS Gerald Ford to return to the U.S. port to be resolved. However, with the need for the United States to project air superiority in this quickly developing military buildup, it seems unlikely to return to port will happen. A return to port will happen at this stage. Oh man, just as I said, man. So it's gonna be interesting to see, man. Oh man, this is crazy. This is good. This is real good, man. All right, so let's get some scriptures. All right, ain't got to make this too long. This is Jeremiah 50:37. It says, "A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her." All right, going into Babylon the Great. All right, the Chaldeans. Okay. So pertaining to America, the Lord is gonna bring destruction, all right, and war to this country. Okay. It's horses, it's tanks, you know, it's vehicles used, whatever, whether it's mechanized or whatever type of vehicles, Esau uses for purposes of war. It says upon the mingled people. You got people from all walks of life here in Babylon. I mean, the fact that you got Mundami, all right, which is the mayor of New York, a damn heathen. All right, I think Ishmael or Elon, one of them, and Cash Patel, a damn Dahead, another East Indian, or something along them, one of them darker Arabs, either Arab or either Ishmaelite or Elamite. All right, them is two heathens that is is the FBI director and the mayor of New York. All right, there are clear examples of amigo people in the midst of this place, in the midst of America. Okay, the elder Taziwan, I believe, from Connecticut, the bishops this past week at camp were going into that situation with Mundami swearing in to office using the Quran. All right, which is not a you ain't supposed to be swearing in on nothing, period. But according to American standards, all right, that's treason. That's treason. That's a no-go according to American standards. Yet you had them actually do it. All right. Why? Because America has a bunch of mingled people from other nations here in this country, just as ancient Rome had a bunch of mingled people from the known world at that time that pretty much made up ancient Rome, the ancient Roman Empire. All right. It says and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. So the point being, they should become as women. Okay. These sailors right now they're as women. Okay, not wanting to fight, deliberately sabotaging the ship because they are homesick, haven't talked to their family in months, missed funerals, and because of the nature of the sensitive nature of the operation, they can't contact loved ones. All right, so they bugging out, man. Okay. So let me read this verse 37 in the NLT. It says Jeremiah 50:37 in the NLT. It says, "The sword will strike her horses and chariots and her allies from other lands, and they will all be like women. The sword will strike her treasures, and they all will be plundered." Okay. Let me see. All right, let me jump to this here in Jeremiah, or excuse me, not Jeremiah, Joel 2:20. It says, Joel 2:20 in the KJV, it says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, which that's going into Babylon the Great. Okay, that northern army here is referring to Babylon the Great. Okay, so the Lord said he's going to remove far off. Okay, so there's going to come a time when you're going to see, rapid deployments, steady deployments of U.S. troops going over to the Middle East, right? And not just, you're going to have airmen, seamen, soldiers, Marines, all that getting sent over to the Middle East. Okay, it says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, okay, that's going into the American military, and will drive them into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. Okay, so that land that's barren and desolate is referring to and talking about Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is like a focal point for World War III. It's the sandbox. All right, it's a big ass piece of land that is just a desert. Okay, a big ass desert that's perfect because to the west you have Israel, you have Africa, okay, and then to the east you have Iran, you have India, you have that region. To the northeast you got parts of Europe and in Asia. Okay, to the northwest you have Israel and some more European countries, Western European countries. So it's a focal point, man. All right, it's a strategic location for armies from the west and armies from the east, also armies from the south and armies from the north, to pretty much link up. All right, it's a perfect location. Okay, so as it says, with his face toward the east sea. All right, so if you are standing in um the land of Saudi Arabia, the country of Saudi Arabia, with your face east, all right, in your hinder part toward the utmost sea, all right, what you would have is the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. So if you were standing in Saudi Arabia with your face eastward, pointed toward the east, you would have your face pointed toward the Persian Gulf. Okay. All right. And if your face is east and your back, or your back is pointed west, because that's the opposite of east, your back will be facing the Red Sea. All right. So based upon knowing that, the Red Sea and the being the hinder part, all right, the utmost sea, and the East Sea being the Persian Gulf, that's how you know that location is referring to Saudi Arabia. All right, and Saudi Arabia is right next to Iran. Okay, so continuing, it says, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. And that's going to be the Lord ultimately destroying the militaries that are mustered up and gathered in that land, because of all the wicked inventions, all right, the wicked imaginations of Esau, Edom in particular, along with these nations. That's where the Lord Yahweh Shai is going to return, as it says in Second Ezra. It's going to be dust and smell of smoke. All right, those militaries are going to be destroyed over in that land in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so with all those naval ships or aircraft carriers and what have you, gathered over in that region, they're over in that region for a reason. Okay, so hey, the time's coming when don't be surprised at what we see in the news pertaining to the Gerald Ford, man. That's going to be interesting to see what's going to come of that, because the only way that according to that article that they can really fix that sewage problem is they got to come back to the U.S. All right, and that is not what Donald Trump wants. So this is going to be real interesting, man. But I just wanted to bring that out. Lord willing, that's edifying. Till next time, I say shalom.